Hello and a very warm welcome to a webinar about DotPad with VoiceOver from the team at Dot. I'm Dave Williams. Wonderful to be with you once again. It's a little after 5 p.m. here in the UK on Monday, the 9th of February 2026. And over the next hour, I'll be demonstrating how you can use the DotPad X with iOS. So that's the software that runs iPhones and iPads. Now, don't worry, if you've not seen the DotPad X before, we'll be showing it to you. We'll be giving you a little bit of a tour, connecting it with the iPhone, walking through some of those Braille settings, talking a little bit about Braille access mode, and some of the apps that you might like to use with your DotPad, and some of the reasons why you may want to do that. But before we get underway, let's introduce the team who are going to be supporting the session this evening from Dot. So I'm just going to go round the room and say hi to Gary.
Hi, good to be here.
Okay, Gary, what do you do, Gary?
I am the technical support manager, and that's what I do. And it's great to be on the webinar.
All right, so if you send in a technical support inquiry, the chances are that it will end up on Gary's desk. Thank you so much, Gary, for joining. Also in the UK, I'm just going to go over to Louise.
Hi everyone, so I'm the marketing manager at Dot. So if you received an invitation to today's event, then that would have come from me. So lovely to have you all here, and I hope you enjoy the session.
Thank you so much. And yeah, if you're following us on Facebook or LinkedIn, you may have seen some of the posts, and Louise takes care of all of that. And we very much appreciate you too. All right, we're now going to skip across the pond to the United States and introduce Tim.
Hey everyone, I am Tim, our Sales Development Manager here in the US. So if you ever have any questions about where to find Dot here in the US, just go ahead and hit me up and I'll let you know.
And last and by no means least, out there on the West Coast in the Bay Area, it's Anat.
Good morning, good evening, good middle of the day, wherever you're joining from. My name is Anat Nulman. I'm the country manager for Dot. And I've noticed a few familiar names on the list. So good to see new folks and good to see our friends.
Thank you so much, Anat. Now, the way these sessions normally work is that we do about half an hour of product demo where we show you a couple of things and share a few things, and then we open it up for questions. So there's a Q&A section in the webinar where you can pop your question, and we will come to those a little bit later on. So if I kind of skip over something, or if something's not clear, or you just had a comment or an observation, then feel free to put that in the Q&A section and we will get to you. Right, without any further ado, let's change camera and show you the DotPad. This is DotPad X, a tactile information display. DotPad X is designed to show multiline braille or tactile graphics in this 300 cell refreshable display area, below which we have 6 navigation keys, so 2 arrow keys and 4 function keys, and then below that we have a 20 cell braille display that can be used for showing image labels, image descriptions, or as you'll see when we connect to our iPhone, you can have different content from different parts of VoiceOver showing on here as well. DotPad is about the size of an iPad Pro. It's sort of 11 by 9 inches, about an inch thick, and is set at a slight incline. So the back of the device is slightly raised to allow for a more natural reading position. Now on the top face over here on the right hand side we have a Braille letter P, which is for power, and the power switch is on the right hand edge of the device. When that switch is away from you, DotPad is switched on, you'll feel a short vibration to tell you that you've got power, and if you need to know how much power you have remaining, hold down both these arrow keys on the front and I can feel 4 little vibrations, which tells me that my battery is around about 80%. So you charge that with the USB-C port that's right next to the power switch here on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, we have a second USB-C port. That's over here, indicated with a Braille letter D for data. And this is where we connect DotPad X to a laptop. So that allows you to install firmware updates, or you can establish a USB connection to your screen reader. So that might be NVDA or JAWS for Windows, and we have support in all of those screen readers. The battery itself, the internal battery, from a completely flat battery, and I would recommend that you don't run it all the way down, but if you do, plugging it in for 2 or 3 hours usually brings the battery back up to a full charge. And if you want to take DotPad with you on the go, and why wouldn't you, DotPad is supplied with a carry bag. The unit itself weighs about 2.5 pounds, about 1.2 kilos, so very portable, very easy to keep with you. And that carry bag also has space for your iPad or a small laptop as well. And of course, we supply the USB-C cable for a connection to a computer. You might also notice around the edge of DotPad, it's housed within the silicon bumper that just protects the corners from, any bumps and knocks that the unit might get in the real world when you're taking it out of your bag and things like that. And also, the other thing you notice when you use DotPad for the very first time is that we have a thin, flexible sheet that stretches over the cells. We call this our cell protector, and it prevents dust and dirt and moisture and grease and anything like that from ingressing into the cells, and it helps to keep DotPad super reliable for many years to come. And we supply spare cell protectors. We don't expect you to need to change it. Most people have been using their cell protectors for many months, and in some cases even over a year. But should you need to replace a cell protector, well, we give you 3 spare cell protectors in the box, and if you need more, just give us a shout and we'll try and help you out. Right, okay, so hopefully that's a little bit of a orientation, gives you a little bit of a flavour for anyone who's not had hands-on with DotPad. And if you'd like to get hands-on with DotPad and you're coming to the California State University of Northridge Assistive Technology Conference in Anaheim in March, then do check out the Dot booth where we will be demonstrating DotPad in person. We're also going to be at other events as well, so stay tuned to our newsletter and socials to find out where we're going to be in the coming months. Right, so DotPad and iOS. So the most common use case for me personally, I get asked often, Dave, what do you do with your DotPad, right? Because there are lots of funky applications out there that Dot have made and third parties have made for showing things like graphics and learning. And, at CSUN, we're going to be talking about some of our AI tools. And of course, we've talked in previous webinars about support in JAWS. But for me, honestly, hand on heart, the most frequent way in which I use my DotPad is to read Multiline Braille, because having up to 8 lines of Braille on DotPad at any one time means that I can read more fluently, I can be spending less time pressing buttons and much more time enjoying and learning from the content that I'm reading. And I like to read books. I like to use the Kindle app. And where does that content come from? Well, it comes from my iPhone. So just with my DotPad and my iPhone, I can enjoy multi-line Braille reading. And the way we connect DotPad with the iPhone is the same way that you would connect any other Braille display with iPhone. So right now I'm sitting in the Braille settings, and to get here we go to Settings, Accessibility, VoiceOver and Braille. So that's Settings, Accessibility, VoiceOver and Braille. And when you switch on your DotPad, the dot pad displays the last 4 digits of the Bluetooth name. So if you have multiple dot pads in your environment, you're able to accurately identify which one is yours, right? And so you can find that in tactile print on the multi-line and in Braille on the single line. And what we do is go to Settings, Accessibility, VoiceOver Braille, and scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you will hear
more info. Dot pad 320x_1085.
Okay, so that's my dot pad right there at the very bottom of the screen, and I have connected to my iPhone. So all I've done is a single finger double tap as you normally would, and that connection will happen automatically. Now, it's important to understand that, of course, you will need Bluetooth switched on your iPhone. And if it isn't, when you come into the Braille settings, VoiceOver will prompt you to switch on the Bluetooth. The other thing, of course, is that if you switch dot pad off, then you're not going to get any Braille, but it may be that when you switch dot pad back on, VoiceOver has kind of given up searching for your dot pad, right? So the times when VoiceOver looks for your dot pad is either when you go into this screen or when you restart VoiceOver. So when you unlock your phone or you restart VoiceOver, and there are some settings that we'll look at in a second that can help with this. But the golden rule is switch your dot pad on first and then unlock your phone, and that will increase the chances of re-establishing a connection. And sometimes if you do get really stuck and VoiceOver just for whatever reason won't connect to your dot pad, then sometimes it's worth coming in here and forgetting the device, and I can show you how to do that in just a second, and reconnecting. And it takes seconds, right? But we all know sometimes Bluetooth connections, even with headphones and other Bluetooth devices, sometimes after a lot of use or in busy radio environments, they don't always reconnect first time. So hopefully a couple of tips there that will be helpful. So with dot pad connected,
choose a Braille dot pad 300 more info.
You
button.
heard that more info
Actions
button
available.
there. I'm just going to double tap that.
Braille commands button.
Okay, and we're now into settings that relate specifically to this dot pad connection. And if I just flick through, so I'm using VoiceOver, so I'm just going to perform a horizontal flick to the right.
Disconnect on sleep. Switch button on.
Okay, so disconnect on sleep. So if your phone automatically goes to sleep and you want to maintain that connection, then you may want to come in and turn this setting off. So that can be helpful for maintaining that connectivity.
Disconnect this Braille display when your iPhone sleeps.
Okay.
Forget this device button.
Now this button here, forget this device, that's the one if for some reason you're having problems with the connection, that's the button that you would need if you wanted to set up that pairing relationship again. Okay, I'm not going to do that now for obvious reasons. The other thing I want to show you in this dialogue is how we assign our buttons. So just let me talk you through, and I will remind you of these. You might want to make some notes, but I will remind you of how these buttons work. So I talked about a row of 6 navigation buttons on the dot pad. So we've got 2 arrow keys and 4 function keys. So 2 arrow keys and 4 function keys. Now the arrow keys will pan the single Braille line. So if you want to read from the single Braille line, or you're looking at a description, or if you're in Braille access mode, then those arrow keys are going to pan forward and backwards on the single Braille line. F1 and F4, which have a little tactile raised edge at the front of them, they will pan the multi-line. So they will take you forward 8 lines of Braille at a time. So those are the keys that I'm using when I'm reading from Kindle or from Dolphin Easy Reader or some other app. And so they're moving forward almost by an object at a time. And then F2, which is the third button along, that is equivalent to going home on the iPhone. So doing that, that flick up from the bottom of the screen, or in the old days, pressing the home button. And then the F3 key is equivalent to performing a single finger double tap. So that will activate the item that we're on. So we're actually able now to operate DotPad, to operate the iPhone from the DotPad. So I'm just going to step back.
Forget this device. Button. Back button. Back button. Back button.
Okay, so there's the back button. And what we are looking for
Forget
here
this device.
is
Forget this
the
Forget this
button
device.
to set up our Braille commands. I'm going to do this on the screen.
Disconnect Braille. DotPad 3. Back button. DotPad 320x_1085. Heading. Braille commands. Button.
There we go. So we've got a button there for Braille commands. And this will allow us to assign our own combinations, our own functions to these buttons. And there's one in particular that I wanted to do. So those of you who've been following Braille support closely in iOS will know that iOS 26 introduced something called Braille Access Mode. And this is a little suite of Braille-specific apps for use with your Braille display. Now, ordinarily, to invoke Braille access mode, you'd press dot 7 and 8 on your Braille keyboard. Well, DotPad has Braille navigation buttons, but we don't have a Braille keyboard. So something that I was quite keen to do was to be able to hop into that Braille access mode using the buttons on my DotPad. So if we go into Braille commands, and we've got a number of categories here.
Device, interaction, keyboard, navigation, rotor, VoiceOver, reset all Braille key assignments. Button.
Okay, so we've got all those categories.
Voice, rotor, navigate, keyboard, interaction, device, Braille, button.
So Braille's the top one. That's the one I want. I'm going to single finger double tap to go in here. Okay, and then the command I want is to be able to go into Braille access mode. So I'm just going to flick through to find
Enable or increase or next input, next output, open Braille access to BRF files, open Braille access to calculator, open Braille access to choose item, button. Open Braille access to launch app, button. Open Braille access to live caption, open Braille access to time, but pan beginning, but pan end, pan left, pan right, reconnect Braille, toggle announcement history, button, toggle Braille access, button 3 plus button 2, button.
Okay, and you can hear there that I've already set this up. So toggle Braille access is button 3 and button 2. So that's those two central buttons on the DotPad. So the third and the fourth button in the row. So those function keys. Basically, if I press those keys simultaneously, that'll take me into Braille access mode. So there's lots and lots of commands in here. It might be that you want the buttons on your DotPad to do something differently, and that's how you would do it. You would come into this screen and you would find the option that you want, and there's a lot of stuff in there, so I'm not going to go through all of that now. Now, the other thing we promised that we would show you in this session is to make sure that the Braille that comes out of your DotPad makes sense for you, right? Because many of us who have been reading Braille a long time are familiar with contracted Braille. You know, this is a kind of a short form of Braille that saves space and can increase reading speed. But if you're new to Braille, or maybe you have another reason for not wanting to use contractions, then it might be that you prefer Braille code that is uncontracted. It's also possible that you want to read Braille in a language other than English, in which case you need to select a Braille table that is appropriate for your needs and for your use case. So let's go and do that now. So I'm just going to do a two-finger scrub to come out of these settings.
Braille, button. Braille commands, button. Braille commands, button. Use underline cursor. 17.9 dynamic VoiceOver. Match input and output. English. Unified. Uncontract. Match VoiceOver. Back button.
Okay, so in the regular Braille settings screen, so that that settings accessibility VoiceOver Braille screen where we started, I've now gone to the top of the screen and I'm going to do a single finger flick to the right.
Match input and output tables. Switch button on.
Okay, match input and output tables, so that ensures that the Braille you write is the same as the Braille you read. Now, sometimes we know that writing with contracted Braille, sometimes VoiceOver doesn't always keep up with that, so you may choose to write with uncontracted Braille, but read in contracted Braille. And so you can change that here. You can have different Braille tables for reading and writing. And if I flick forward.
Input and output, English, unified, uncontracted, button.
Okay, so the Braille table that I have currently selected is unified, uncontracted. Okay, now I have that selected for demonstration purposes. Normally the table I would use is contracted because I'm an experienced Braille reader, but sometimes when I'm showing DotPad to people and perhaps they're less experienced with reading Braille, or they perhaps don't read English as their first language, so I have uncontracted there because I find that is helpful.
Braille screen input, button.
Okay, Braille screen input, that's out of scope for this demonstration.
Braille tables, 3, button. Braille access, button.
Okay, Braille access, you can learn more about that feature that I mentioned earlier. That's the one for which we have assigned buttons, and we'll do that in a sec.
Item overview, button. Automatic translation, switch button, on. Status cells, button. Equations use Nemeth code, switch button, off.
Okay, and I've left many of these other settings at their defaults, but if you use Nemeth code, for example, it might be that you want to check that setting is switched on for you when you're reading equations.
Show on-screen keyboard, switch button, on.
The on-screen keyboard, I would say in the case of DotPad, you want to keep this switched on. If you have a Braille display that has a keyboard, you may want to switch that off because it might be that you get a cleaner screen for navigation purposes. But if you're using the on-screen QWERTY keyboard, then when you connect a Braille display, then sometimes that keyboard can be hidden. And so you may want to specify with this setting that you want the keyboard to remain visible.
Turn pages when panning, switch button, on.
And that's quite an important setting as well, because this will determine, turn pages when panning decides when I get to the bottom of my page in my book, for example in Kindle, and I press the forward button on DotPad, will it show me the next page? Well, yes it will, providing this setting is switched on. All right, that's it for the Braille settings. I'm going to jump out now to my home screen, and we can talk about the Braille access mode very briefly. So I'm just going to press the
settings
key there, the F2 key on the DotPad, and that's taken me out now to my home screen. So it says settings on the single Braille line, and I've got an image of the icon, which I think is meant to represent like gears on the multi-line. Now, if I press F2 and F3 together, hopefully, he says, we should get into the Braille access mode.
Braille access on, launch app.
Okay, Braille access is on, and so now my single line display has the words launch app, and so I can now use the arrow keys. If you remember, the arrow keys change the single line.
Choose item. Braille notes, BRF files.
Okay, and I get to BRF files. Now I'm going to press F3, which is the like pressing single finger double tap.
New.
Okay, I can create a new BRF file.
Events.
And there's a folder called events that I created earlier. So I'm going to press the F3 on that.
New.
Now, the reason I'm showing you this is because the experience has been curated specifically for Braille displays, right? And so this is a kind of a Braille first experience, and you'll see one of the benefits of that in a second. I'm just going to scroll forward.
Program 20 cell BRF.
Okay, there's my file. So I've got a file here called program BRF, program 20 cell BRF. And this is a program from an event that I hosted last year. We had a World Braille Day conference here in the UK, and we produced a Braille program in hard copy, but also we made the BRF file available. And so I'm just going to open that now by pressing F3. Now, nothing will be happening on screen because, as I said, this is a Braille first experience. Actually, on screen, we're still probably focused on our settings icon. And if I were to touch my iPhone's touchscreen, I could still operate the phone in the normal way. But the beauty of opening this BRF now is that it's taken me back to exactly the word that I was on when I was reading this earlier. And so if I
App Store, 40 updates available.
So you heard there the iPhone say App Store, and I've got some updates waiting. But on my single line Braille display at the bottom of DotPad, I've now got the BRF file still, and it says, as chair of the Braillists Foundation, and then it's my welcome notes, basically, from my BRF file. And I think that's a pretty cool feature now that every iPhone and every iPad has the ability to display BRF files pretty much out of the box if you have iOS 2026. So I'm running 26.3. DotPad is supported all the way back to 15.2, so that's going to be any iPhone or any iPad that's been released in the last few years. You can explore some of the other Braille access features there, but I think the BRF reader is the most useful one. I'm just going to jump out of that.
Braille access off.
Okay, with F2. And the penultimate thing I want to show you is what happens when you connect a multi-line Braille display to iOS. What happens in the rotor, in the VoiceOver rotor, because we get some extra options here, some of which work better than others, but I'm just going to show you how you find those. And I'll talk briefly about some of the other apps that I use, and then we'll open up for questions. All right, so I'm just on my home screen, and I'm just going to turn the VoiceOver rotor with that two-finger twist gesture.
Braille screen input, characters, stopping Braille podcasts, Braille screen input, characters, stopping Braille screen input, words, speech volume, 1 audio ducking, audio sounds, hints, containers, headings, vertical navigation, describe images, Braille zoom.
Okay, so the first one that is new. So when you connect a multi-line Braille display, you get something called Braille Zoom. Now, I haven't found this to work particularly significantly at the moment, but it's there. And if you want to use it, then certainly do feedback to Apple, and I'll tell you how to do that in just a second. Okay, I'm going to keep going now, clockwise.
Braille line thickness.
Braille line thickness. Again, the idea is that if there is an icon in focus, you can change the thickness of those lines.
Braille horizontal pan.
And then we've got rotor options for horizontal and vertical pan.
Braille vertical pan.
Again, they've not really been fully implemented as far as I can tell. Your mileage may vary, so I'd love to hear from you if you've had a play with any of these settings.
Voices, comma.
And then that's it for the new things in the rotor. So you've got the panning and the zooming. Oh, there is another setting. Let me...
Braille text mode, reading mode.
Here we go. Braille text mode. And there are 4 modes here that VoiceOver have given us. So I'm currently in reading mode. If I flick up...
Images.
So I can have images only.
Preview mode.
Preview mode.
Reading mode, no images.
Reading mode with no images.
Reading mode.
And reading mode, which is the one that I tend to use, which gives me a little bit of a mix of text and tactile images. And I might invite Tim just to weigh in, because I know you've been playing with some of these settings in the rotor. Tim, have you got anything to add? I might have put Tim on the spot there. He's probably looking for his unmute button. So
yes, here you go. Hey, Dave.
Yeah. So you've been playing with some of those modes, the reading and the preview mode and so on. Did you want to just elaborate a little bit on those?
Yes. So my personal favorites is I love the preview mode as well as the images only. So the difference between those two is preview gives you the next 8 items VoiceOver would encounter as you're swiping right, and just the first 20 characters of it. So if you want to go and just see what's those next things on a web page in your settings list, or even if you're one that just doesn't want the home screen tactile experience, that this is a great way of being able to turn everything into just multi-line content. And then with the images only mode, this is one that a lot of folks from the community was saying how they use some of our favorite AI chatbots to create images. And with images only mode, it's a nice way of being able to make sure VoiceOver lands on that image that we might be looking at, so we can go and have that tactile experience of what it is we're trying to get AI to create. So those are my 2 personal favorite modes to switch between aside from reading.
Yeah, I've been playing a bit with Gemini to create line drawings that are suitable for an array of 2,400 dots, and so you've got to kind of carefully craft the prompt to get the AI to generate those images in a way that you would like. And so using that image only mode, you're right, Tim, because sometimes you just get VoiceOver shouting out some of the surrounding controls rather than actually focusing on the image, and so that can help in that situation.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Dave. And
yeah.
one other good one that I've received feedback on with that image only one is for folks that are learning how different buttons on the screen looks tactily, that this is also another great way of being able to do that. So a lot of accessibility and AT instructors and testers are sharing this as their use case way of leveraging these features as well. So a lot of good options.
All right. Okay. So have a play with those rotor settings. Let us know how you get on. I'm just going to
Dots
very
of news. Tab bar.
finally. Oh, what's going on here?
Toggle
I've
live
lost my
regions and
place.
announcements. Off.
Right. Okay.
Settings.
Okay. The last thing I want to show you is my book.
News.
I say my book, the book I'm reading. I haven't
Actions
written one. You'll
available.
be relieved to hear.
Settings. Teams.
Right.
Seeing AR. Chat G. Kindle. Easy read Kindle.
Here we go. So I can jump into Kindle here.
Kindle. Kindle.
So this is just a regular book
Judicial confidence.
that I have bought from the Kindle store. So it was whatever it was, £5.99 or whatever, and I'm able to add that to my Kindle library. And so now on the dot pad, I've got 8 lines of Braille. So this is what I was talking about earlier on, being able to read, fluently my 8 lines, so I can kind of put my phone to one side, and then I'm able to read with both hands. And when I get down to the bottom of the page, I can pan forward. So this is a book about civil rights, actually, and human rights. And I've got my text there. It's in my chosen Braille code that we talked about earlier on, which was uncontracted UEB just now. And when I get to the bottom of the page, and I'm just going to keep panning and keep panning and keep panning. It's like Nemo, isn't it? Keep swimming, keep swimming. And when we hit the bottom of the page, what will happen is the iPhone will switch to the next page.
The UK
there we go.
Is somewhat of an
So we go onto we got onto the next page. So I haven't had to keep going back to the iPhone. So that's really handy that you can have all of that. And what I've also done, a little tip, is to reduce the font size in Kindle, and that increases the number of lines on a page as well. So be interested to know which reading app you're using and how you're getting on, and whether you've had a chance to try that with Multiline Braille. So that's a little bit of a recap. Make sure that your device is obviously charged and that the Bluetooth is on. Recommend switching on the dot pad before you unlock your phone to ensure reconnection. You may want to go into the settings for your particular dot pad in the Braille settings and go to that more info and configure some of the buttons to add functionality that you use most frequently. For me, it was the Braille access, using the combination of buttons 2 and 3, and then check out some of those multi-line extras that you find in the rotor once you have connected to a multi-line Braille display. If you have found something in VoiceOver that's causing you a problem, and you've got some very clear steps on how you can reproduce that problem, then do drop a note into accessibility@apple.com. That's accessibility@apple.com. I know that the guys at Apple are always working on this stuff. They're keen to improve it. They'd love to hear from you, and so do let them know if you find something that's tripping you up. But that's pretty much it from me in terms of a demo. And what I'd quite like to do now is maybe open it up for any questions that you may have about the use of DotPad with iOS.
Okay, so Dave, I can help you out with the questions. We've got a couple of questions and a couple of comments that are already here, and I'll read them for the team based on the order that they came in. So Derry made put a couple of questions up quite early on. So he is interested to know how often the DotPad X needs to be updated with new software.
So, not very often. In fact, we are just about to release our first firmware update. We're just testing that internally at the moment. So, DotPad X was launched in September of 2025, and we're now in February of 2026. And we expect that first update, and that's to do with handling low power situations. So when your battery is running very low, we want DotPad to behave a little bit more predictably, and that's coming in that first update, which we're just, as I said, testing internally. So we don't expect those updates to be very frequent, Derry. And of course, when there are updates, we will communicate those with customers.
Okay, great. So Derry's second question, is there a cell protection on the 20 cells at the front as well? This was based on when it was explaining the screen protector on the front on the main display.
There is a cell protector for both the multi-line and for the single line. They are independent of one another, and you get 3 of each in the box.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Derry, for your questions. So moving on to Randy. Randy says, my DotPad works great, but I have not been able to get the drawing on iPhone feature to work.
So this is a feature of Canvas. The Canvas, which we will do a webinar on separately, I think, because there's quite a lot to unpack there. What you have to do if you go into Canvas and you want to use DotPad with Canvas, because the phone won't allow us to make multiple connections to the same DotPad, what we have to do is disconnect in VoiceOver, and then in .canvas go to settings and connect, and then choose DotPad from there, and then we go to create new canvas. So if that doesn't solve the issue, maybe we can take that question offline. Tim, Gary, feel free to chime in if you've got anything you'd like to add to that.
Oh, Dave, there's a lot, and what I will say is, send us an email over at info@dotincorp.com. That's info@dotincorp.com. And let's schedule some time so we can walk through that separately, because there is a lot to unpack with Canvas that we will get to. Just in the meantime, let us help you out.
There's new information coming as well with Canvas, so definitely watch this space. And again, if you're still having problems, send us an email and I'll help you out.
Okay, great. So we'll move on to Amelia. Amelia says, last time I entered Braille access with my DotPad to read a BRF, I could not read with multiline. I was limited to the single line at the bottom. Can I have multiline in Braille access? If so, how?
That is a great question, and we hear you, and you're absolutely right that right now Braille access in iOS only gives us the BRF on the single line display. So you would need to read that content in another app if you want it on the multi-line today. However, it is something that we're very keen to see happen, and it's feedback that we are sending to Apple, and it would really help if you would also write to accessibility@apple.com to try and help escalate that request, because it's something that we're very keen for as well. So thank you so much. Really appreciate the question. It's these Rome wasn't built in a day, right? And so I'm really keen that we can get to that point where we can have that Braille access on multi-line. So do let the folks at accessibility@apple.com know about that and why it's important for us.
Okay, we've got a couple of comments, so I'll read them out, and Dave and the team can let us know if there's anything else they'd like to add. So Adele has said, the buttons on the dot pads are influenced by some on humanwares. 2 are made for navigating from line to line, while navigating button 1 and 6 are used for single line, F1 and F4, which are navigating buttons. And he says, greetings to all.
Right, yeah, I'll just run through those just for clarity. So
FaceTime.
there are 6 buttons in total, and these are arranged horizontally. The 2 outer buttons are arrows, left arrow and right arrow. They pan the single line. Between the arrows, we have 4 oval function keys, numbered 1 to 4. The first and the fourth of those have a little dash at the front edge, so you can feel those, a bit like the F and J on your QWERTY keyboard. They typically pan the multi-line, and then the 2 middle buttons, F2 and F3. F2 is equivalent to going to the home screen on iOS, and F3 is like performing a single finger double tap. It's like a select command, if you will. Now, you can reassign those any way you like, and we talked about that earlier. And I have, for example, set mine to go, if I press the 2 middle buttons at the same time, then I go into Braille access mode. So hopefully that's kind of clear. And yeah, if you want to do something different with those buttons, it's also worth mentioning as well that different screen readers behave in slightly different ways. So when you're using those buttons with JAWS or NVDA, they're going to do different things, right? So in this session, we've just been talking about how the buttons work in VoiceOver running on iOS.
Okay, great. Next comment from JJ. I never realized until DotPad the clock icon actually shows the current time with an analog clock, and you can feel the hands when you focus the icon.
Let's do that.
FaceTime. Photo. Calendar.
Yeah, it's
Mail.
great.
Clock. 1741.
Here we go. So here's the clock icon. So it has got a box around it at the moment, and the hands are actually quite sort of thick, but yes, we can
1742.
feel. So here in the UK right now, it's 1742. So we can feel the minute hand is pointing to the left there, and the hour hand is pointing down just towards the 6. So yeah, it blew my mind as well, actually, the first time I felt that. And it is quite fun to explore those icons and to feel, the heart for the health and the house for the home app and so on. Yeah, I mean, for me, that's kind of like a wow moment. But the most useful thing, I guess, day to day is, once you've seen those icons, then they become, familiar. It's amazing how quickly you start to recognize them. And it does add to your enjoyment of using your device. But day to day, I think the multi-line for
1743.
me has perhaps more practical use. But it's a pretty cool thing. I might have to turn my voice off on my phone because we don't want to hear the minutes now, do we?
Yeah. Okay. Next question coming in from James. Does DotPad X work with the Apple Books app?
It does to a point, but I mean, Gary, Tim, come in on
Yeah.
this.
I mean, I think what you get with Kindle, you get that the thing that doesn't work with the iBooks is the panning while page turning. So you still have to physically move to the bottom of the page, which is very annoying. And again, that's another thing we need to talk to Apple about. I'm sure they'll be pleased to know that their Kindle app works better than iBooks. But accessibility at apple.com is your place. And it works reasonably well, but you just with that caveat.
Yeah,
Tim,
so you can
any
read the
thoughts?
text, but changing pages is a little bit more of a manual process. Tim, anything to add to that?
You could go into those Braille command modes and add a key function. So one of the 2 keys to go ahead and add that to the navigation buttons if it's going to be your primary method of reading with the dot pad. And that's just one of the things I will say is awesome with the VoiceOver Braille settings is you can remap everything. And I know that one is there for changing pages. And that's the quick workaround that we control directly with the dot pad right now.
All right.
Okay, so keep going. There is 6 questions left for those who are counting. So Luca has asked, does DotPad work with any app able to show text files, What about VoiceStream in particular?
Yep. So VoiceStream does work. So DotPad will basically work with anything that VoiceOver works with to a point, and we're really in the hands of VoiceOver's Braille support. So the two apps that we've had the most joy with when it comes to reading books are the Dolphin Easy Reader app and the Kindle app. So those have been the two that the team have tested. VoiceStream works, but Tim, I think you found it a little bit bumpy of late.
It's yes, and we're going to put it works with a very cautious on that piece where what happens when I'm using Voice Dream Reader in particular, and we do got the VoiceOver focus in the right location there in the text field as we are panning, where I've noticed that it will display the text of the current focus, but then it might miss stuff where the question comes up, is this a VoiceOver or is this a Voice Dream output related function? And this will be one, just like Dave, you were saying that, the more people that could kind of look at it and, determine, what that might be, which side of the house between VoiceOver and VoiceStream, that would be beneficial because it can pan through, just I find it's missing text.
Okay.
Okay, I might actually jump to a related question instead of just going to the next in line. So Kim has asked, can you read with Multiline using the Easy Reader app?
Yes.
Yes.
There you go, easy. Okay, Jared, I think what you've said here, can you use DotPad with VoiceOver speech turned off? Does it have enough controls?
Depends what you are doing. So if I were, if I were wanting to reply to an email, for example, then that's not going to work because you want to be able to navigate your text and you want to be able to hear what you're writing, whether that's with Braille screen input or similar. So I would say if you're doing a productivity task, then you're probably going to need a mix of Braille and speech in those situations. But if you're reading a book in Kindle or Easy Reader, then absolutely three-finger double tap, and that'll turn the VoiceOver voice off, and you can just work with Braille.
Excellent. Okay, we'll move on to Derry's got another question. Derry says, you mentioned Canvas. What other dot apps are there?
Oh, there's a bunch. And we will cover these in future webinars. So Canvas is for drawing and accessing our tactile image library. Book allows you to read BRF files using the multi-line display. And one of the cool things about Book is that you can change the number of lines that are displayed. So if you have a BRF file with 6 dot Braille, then you can have up to 10 lines of Braille displayed at any one time on the pad compared with the usual 8 that you would get from your screen reader. So yeah, we'll definitely look at some of the other dot apps in future webinars.
Okay. A comment from Amelia. Publicly, Apple says they only support the pad for Mac operating system. When I call accessibility for iOS or iPad support, Apple refuses to engage.
Okay, well maybe drop us a line about that because that is surprising because we've had pad support in iOS now since 15.2. And that's quite a while. So, I'm surprised at if that's the response you've had. Tim, did you want to add anything to that?
Amelia, I'll get with you offline if you want to send us that email that you received, and we could send over to our contacts at Apple because I know that they do support. And for example, the issue with the Braille view modes that they acknowledge, and we're able to get that fixed in the upcoming 26.3 update. So yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
So
they are
we'll talk
listening,
offline.
definitely. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so final question from Beatrice. Beatrice asks, how much is the dot pad in American dollars? Also, what voiceover voice did you use for the demonstration? I liked it a lot.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, I tell you what I'll do is I'll invite our US colleagues to answer your pricing question, but on the voice, I was using Jamie, I think is my voiceover voice. So it's a UK English voice, Jamie. I just find he's a little bit softer on the ear than Daniel. But I'm going to hand over to the US to give you that pricing information. Tim
Alrighty.
or Anna? Yeah,
Yep.
Tim.
Yeah, so .pad here in the US is 5,900, and right now for members of the American Council of the Blind, we are running a special promotion with our distributors to take an additional 300 off, and with that, we are also going to donate $300 back to the ACB. So nice way of being able to look out, and if you want to connect with any of our distributors, just send us a message over at info@dotandcorp.com, and we'll get you connected with one of our nationwide distributors.
Perfect. And one of our distributors, JJ, has been on the line today, so he says hi to everybody. So it's
Yeah.
on the call.
We have about four
we
of them
actually,
on.
we actually have a few of our distributors, so thank you guys for joining us.
Yeah, we appreciate you very much, and yeah, anything that you guys need, of course, we have a network now around the world of .pat distributors near you. So you can go to the dottingcorp.com website, and there's a button there to find a distributor. If you press on products and then .pat X, there's a button on that page to find a distributor near you. So thank you very much. And that was all the questions, I think you said, Louise.
Well, there's another two that have just snuck in. If
Oh,
you
go on
want
then.
to answer them.
We'll do these two,
So,
and then we'll wrap.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. So Derry's actually asked the same question. So who are the distributors in the UK and the pricing in the UK? Are we able to answer that one?
Yes, I think we are. So VisionAid is the .pad distributor in the UK. I don't have the pricing off the
I
top of my
believe
head.
the pricing is £6,495 sterling in the UK.
There you go. Thank you, Gary.
Okay.
There you go. So that's the UK price.
Perfect.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. Really appreciate you. Great questions, great comments. As ever, if you've got a suggestion or a thought, something you'd like us to cover in a future webinar, then do write to info@dottingcorp.com. That's info@dottingcorp.com. If you have feedback for Apple about the VoiceOver Multiline Braille support, you can write to accessibility@apple.com, accessibility@apple.com. And of course, you can follow Dot on various social media. And here to tell us more about that is Louise.
Hi. So, yeah, we regularly update what we're doing on LinkedIn and Facebook. So, if you're not already following us, then please check us out. So, both the handles on both is .inc. We send out a monthly newsletter. So, if you haven't already got yourself signed up to that, then just send us a note to info@dotincorp.com and we can add you to our newsletter. We're running these webinars every month. We use this same time slot every month. So Monday at 5 p.m. in the UK, 9 a.m. on the West Coast, and 12 p.m. excuse the Londoner on the East Coast. So if you'd like to come to a future webinar, sign up to our mailing list and we'll certainly be sure to send you the link to the next one.
Yeah, I don't know if we've finalised what we're doing in March yet, because of course we'll be at CSUN on the 9th of March. So we look forward to meeting some of you folks there, and other events, of course, around the place in the coming months. But yeah, stay tuned and we'll let you know about future webinars. Don't forget, of course, our podcast, Raising the Dots. You can find that anywhere you get podcasts. You can ask your smart speaker to play the latest episode, or just search Raising the Dots. That's the monthly podcast connecting you with the people, the ideas and technology shaping the world of Braille and tactile literacy. From myself, Dave Williams, Tim Hornick, Gary Redfern Gray, Annette Norman, Louise Humphreys, and everyone here at DOT. Until next time, bye for now.